are two-sided, or you need to require a membership to participate. But we really wanted to make our platform transparent and accessible to the ecosystem. We have lawyers and accountants and lenders who have trusted relationships with business owners who can help them understand what it takes to exit and help them put them in touch with buyers through our platform. So we are an ecosystem. We are building a connection hub and an ecosystem in this small business acquisition space so that we can bring more people together so that they can find each other more easily and sell these businesses faster. Sellers search and connect with motivated buyers, actively searching for their next acquisition through Village Wellth. People who are looking to acquire, it's a broad range of people. We've got individual buyers who are looking for career changes. They may have amassed some wealth through the first 10, 20 years of their career and maybe are looking for something different. We have CEOs that are looking to pivot into different career paths, or maybe they've reached the peak of their career in their companies and they want to own something that, that they can grow equity in. We've got existing companies who are looking to grow through acquisition and buy other smaller businesses to grow that way. So all of these different types of buyers, private equity, can come and register at Village Wellth so that they can be found by the rest of the ecosystem. So a simple how it works. Buyers sign up to register their search, which is displayed as a profile on the platform. They can choose to be or not be confidential in showing who they are. Buyers can browse businesses for sale, aggregated from across the web, all in one place. So we actively search for businesses for sale and put them in front of our buyers on the platform. And sellers sign up to search and contact buyers with private for sale opportunities. So we work with a lot of M&A firms, business brokers, intermediaries who are also looking for more buyers in the ecosystem. Some of the features that we've built in and are still building in, and some that we're looking to implement going forward. Verification, we verify. We have a third-party API that comes in and verifies proof of funds for these investors. Resources on how to buy a business and how to start the journey. Education, industry data. A lot of buyers are agnostic, which means they're open to a variety of different industries of what they might look to buy in to get into. So we have data for people who are comparing what industries they might like to get into. An advisor network, so depending on what people need, we are constantly making introductions to valuators or business brokers, accountants, lawyers. And in future, we hope to solve for easy financing in acquisitions. It's more difficult to get capital when you're buying a business. You can't go out like you're buying a home and get pre-approved for a mortgage. Getting pre-approved for a business acquisition is complex, and we'd like to make that more simple. So our tagline is accelerating acquisitions, and it's our vision that buying a business can be as accessible as buying a home. And how did we come to be? So we are 4 founders. Our partner, Rob Irwin, is our CEO. I play the role of head of partnerships, and Josh Diaz is head of marketing, and Giselle, who's here with me today, is director of client engagement. And I've only recently taken over this position of head of partnerships because in a tech startup, you do whatever you can, and you take on whatever role and whatever hat and whatever job makes sense that day, and often learn as you go on the fly. So I have no formal experience in partnerships, and I absolutely love what I do. I think I was born for this role. And so in my journey of exploring what I'm going to do in my newfound job, I picked up this book called The Partnering by Jean Olwang. And it comes from Simon Sinek's publishing company, actually. So we all know and love Simon Sinek. So you can understand what the quality of the book might be and the trend. And I thought it really tied into the rainforest culture when I was asked if I would come and speak. So it talks about the 6 degrees of connection, and it's a guide for building connections that matter from the collective wisdom of over 60 of the greatest partnerships of our time. So some of the partnerships discussed in the book are partnerships that talk about the ozone, the closing of the ozone layer, Ben and Jerry's, and just some very profound corporations and foundations that came out of meaningful partnerships. And I'm very, very proud of our team and our founding team. And when I picked up this book, I realized that we were already doing a lot of the 6 connection points. But what I found in reading the book, and I'm still not done, was that by paying attention to them more consciously, we could protect the foundation of our company that much more. So I thought it would be interesting to share some tales with you guys about how we've interacted with these 6 degrees of connection. So the first degree, something bigger. Lift your purpose through meaningful partnerships, deepen your connection by becoming part of something bigger. So a lot of the time in tech, you come together around a vision or an idea for something that is bigger than yourself and needs more help and needs those partnerships to profoundly move it forward and bring it into the world. And as many people in the rainforest community are part of nonprofits or associations, a lot of these principles will be familiar to you. So we at Village Wellth, all of us came together. We came together at the beginning of 2020. We came together in January of 2020, just before the pandemic, and said, we have this idea that nobody is looking at. And we said, you know, in the M&A space, there are businesses for sale, there are business for sale marketplaces, there are a lot of professionals in this space, and everyone is shouting at business owners about how they need to be succession planning and exit planning, and if they don't do it, you know, they won't be able to get out of their businesses, they might risk closure and that kind of thing. But we thought in order to sell these businesses, there have to be buyers. But nobody's looking over here at these people who are looking to buy businesses, and they struggle to find opportunities to get into to buy. And many of them, you know, are exploring entrepreneurship through, do I start a business, or what other ways can I get into entrepreneurship? And we all know the statistics on the success rate of startups, and the success rate of acquisition is much, much higher because you're kind of adopting this culture and processes and everything that's already existing in the business. You're adopting cash flow, and you can take it and kind of hit the ground running. So all of us felt very compelled about this mission that was bigger than us. 3 of us come from exit planning backgrounds and working with business owners, and so we felt we could come together and really make something of this project. The second degree, feel safe in the relationship and know you 100% have each other's backs for the long run. This gives you the freedom and confidence to do that something bigger. Rob and I both had other companies, and we let them go in order to pursue Village Wellth. Giselle lived in Toronto when she came on with us, and I kind of called her. I knew her from another relationship that we had. I was a client of hers, and I called her up and I said, we're doing this thing, do you want in? And she had never met Rob or Josh, and she said, sure. So during the pandemic, she was in Toronto, we were here, she had never met them. We incorporated our company, and shortly after that, she uprooted her life and moved to Toronto to be with us. Josh still holds down a full-time job and works evenings and weekends for the past 2 years in order to help propel our company forward. So we make it work, and in order to make it work, we have to trust each other. If we don't trust each other, we would never have gotten this far, and we won't keep going. The third degree, staying all in. Where am I? Alive with the daily practice of 6 essential virtues. These are enduring trust, which is shared with the rainforest community as well, unshakable mutual respect, united belief, shared humility, nurturing generosity, and compassionate empathy. We would not be able to continue as a team if we didn't operate with these principles. Giselle and I say we don't get off the phone. We can debate like cats and dogs, and we will not get off the phone until we've reached a mutual agreement or at least some semblance of that. Rob and I think we probably would have killed each other if we didn't have the team dynamic between Josh and Giselle, who kind of taper the situation and bring us down a notch when we get too heated. And it's really important that we have the dialogue that we do within our team. And we have the mutual respect to be able to voice our opinions even when they are so different. Magnetic moments, stay connected and strengthen your ecosystem through intentional practices, rituals, traditions that keep curiosity and wonder alive, keep space for honest communication, spark unlimited joy, and build a wider supportive community. Rob is really great with this with us. He brings games to our strategy sessions. We try and do a team strategy session once a year. Like the time he said, we're gonna go and stand out on the sidewalk in our bare feet. In that -30 week that we all had, and see who could stand in bare feet the longest. I tapped out first, Giselle won. There was a whole point system for the whole week. We also jumped with Post-it notes to see how high you could jump. These were our icebreakers between sessions. So the traditions are really important to us in our company, and we're starting to build employees and bring employees into our relationships. So as the dynamic changes, these relationships are really important to us. Celebrating friction, taking the heat out of conflict and turn it into learning opportunity, ignite sparks of creative combustion for shared solutions and greater connections, staying all in and focused on something bigger. We do really celebrate our friction. We know that if we didn't have the dynamic and the difference of opinions that we have in our team, we wouldn't have the strength of the product that we do in the market going forward. And we really embrace those conversations. When we don't agree on a way that we're building our product, we find that we know as we debate, we know we're gonna end up at a better solution. And if we're not seeing eye to eye, we know that it's like a clue. It's like, we're not there yet. If we're not all on the same page, then we will debate until we do all agree on what needs to change in our product in order to move forward. And sometimes it'll hold up decisions for weeks, and until we can come to a common understanding, we don't move forward. But we always trust that it is going to result in a better product. The 6th degree is a framework of design principles to scale collaborations with deep connections at the center as role models, hubs, and momentum and connective tissue. So we're getting much better at this. In my role of partnerships, constantly reaching out to other tech companies to build these partnerships and alliances. And as the rest of our team works in their own roles, and builds relationships with people through the work that they do, we're getting better at understanding, okay, this is a marketing partnership, Josh needs to come in, or this is client engagement, or this is an integration relationship and Mike needs to come in, who's our head of product. And building more of a practice in the strategy of how that happens is getting better. But I found it really great to pick up this book and be more consciously aware of how we're treating each other and participating in our own partnership to make sure that the foundation of what we built in our company stays that way and stays strong as we grow. Because, you know, as we come out in this emerging tech world, the faster or bigger that we grow, the more fragile that original founding team can be. So I really enjoyed this book, and if anyone's looking for a new book to read, I highly recommend it. This is the last slide about the whole framework for connective tissue, and it just kind of lays the framework around what a lot of people are already doing in their partnering process, but it kind of puts it in a nice little box going forward. So that's what I wanted to share today. Thank you for having me, and good luck in all of your partnerships.
Thank you so much, Liz. That is amazing. As Bridget said in the chat, rituals and culture, it really does build trust, and I really love those 6 degrees and how you're implementing them into Village Wellth. Does anyone have any questions for Liz? I'm gonna check online and see if there's any questions at all. Oh, Jason.
Giselle can take it too. Hi. Thank you. Great question. So the question was how much intelligence and insights are, I'm just repeating for the people in the chat there, how much data and intelligence is listed from a business owner's perspective that the buyers can access, and how that's shared and maneuvered. So as we're building it out forward, that is actually our blue sky, is to have more data available through a protected series of disclosure. The information that's presented right now is fairly high level because in business sales, confidentiality is of the utmost importance. A lot of businesses don't want people to know they're for sale. And if you're a new buyer, this is often very foreign. We have buyers that come in that say, why do business owners want to stay so private? Why can't I get access to this information? And everyone wants an NDA, and it's also private. And so part of our process is teaching why things work the way they are and understanding how much of the industry can we push. If we need to make it uncomfortable a little bit, we'll, make it progress, then we'll do that. Sorry? Yeah. Buyers want transparency. They want more access to data on companies. What's there now is typically not the name of the company that's disclosed. It's industry, region, if region doesn't disclose where it is, gross revenue, earnings, sometimes it might be number of employees, a brief description of services and products. So as much to disclose interest and tease interest and let an acquirer know this is or isn't in their ballpark of investment, as well as to protect the identity of the business. And in rural, it gets more complicated, or even in Atlantic Canada, we had a company that was listed in Atlantic Canada, and they said, you can't list it as Halifax because there aren't very many companies in that industry in Halifax, and everyone's going to know. So, there are ways to say, okay, it's in Atlantic Canada, or it's in Eastern Canada, not to disclose who it is or where it is. But what we'd like to see is that there are sort of these gates where acquirers can, as they verify themselves or present their capability in acquiring or their vettedness, that they have access to deeper channels of information. So we're working on, who is disclosing that? A lot of the M&A firms, they keep that information very private. How much will they disclose to us if we can show them how we're protecting it and managing the flow? Yeah, it's in the works.
Miriam?
So Miriam's question is it just the connection point, or are we managing the process? I'd say it's still yet to be determined. Right now, we are very much just making connections. At the smaller end of businesses, like if you're looking at businesses under even say $500,000, the representation, the options for representation that they have, like people that will work with them, they have less availability to support. So there are some platforms that we actually work with that manage the process in more detail. So they will take on a business owner, they will absorb their information, they will intake their information from the sell side, and they will help them put it together with their platforms. We work with a lot of those platforms because we're more focused on presenting the acquirers, and we will actually integrate, and we're working on plugging into some of those other tech platforms because they do what they do really well, and if we do it too, then we're just kind of competing with them. We want to find more partners to integrate with, and then we don't have to build it to that degree. We can just partner with the other platforms in the ecosystem that are also at our end of the market. Yeah.
There's a couple questions from online. So Peter was wondering, all the bonding qualities you mentioned are important, but purchasing a company that was not built on these qualities could become a culture clash. Thoughts?
Yeah, culture is a big piece, and we hear very often that even large M&A transactions, when there's not a culture fit, they can often fall apart after the acquisition happens. There's a big movement for social acquisition and for converting enterprises into social enterprises. It's definitely a piece that is paid attention to, and we encourage acquirers and investors who've never bought before to really not overlook it in due diligence as they're reviewing these companies to purchase. Pay attention to the existing culture. Fit is a big part of acquisition. It's not just about, affordability and is this, do the dollars and cents make sense? Is this a good cultural fit for who's buying and who the employees and the management team is in that company? So I don't know if that will get solved for Peter from a technology standpoint. It's something that kind of needs to be trained in the due diligence process. And there are assessments out there that help with understanding culture before an acquisition takes place as well.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Great question.
There's another one from the chat from V. Sorry, I had it. Tell us about the business valuation process.
So that's a loaded question.
That's what they said in the chat too.
Typically, and everything's sort of on a case-by-case basis in small business acquisition. You hear these crazy multiples that tech businesses are getting acquired at, or even different industries. I've heard the veterinary industry is getting multiples of 17. And when I say multiple, for people who aren't familiar with that language, typically it's a multiple of revenue or a multiple of profit. EBITDA is the industry term, but it can depend on the industry and the size of the company, and also the value drivers and how that company is operated. So what I hear from bankers is typically that small businesses transact at a 3 times earning. That multiple is actually an equation of risk built into how the company is operated and a number of other factors. So again, small business valuation, it can be anywhere from 1 to 5 is what we're seeing of multiples of earnings. And it's an ongoing conversation, and again, it can depend on industry as well. There is a big trend of across industries of existing larger companies coming in and buying smaller companies. So the more that happens within a specific industry and the more acquirers that are in a specific industry, the higher the valuations can be. But it is an art, not a science. And sometimes it's how the process is managed. So depending, if a seller wants the highest valuation that they can yield, it can be meticulous in building that value. Small businesses tend to not have access to that advisory support in the years ahead of a sale. So it can be complex.
Awesome.
Did I answer that
Thank you.
well enough?
I think so. I think it was a good answer. Are there any other questions for Liz? Steve?
Do you help in the due diligence as well, in that whole process for a buyer?
Yeah, we don't. We have professionals that we recommend to do due diligence. We do have access through our memberships to IBIS reports. So if people are wanting to access industry data, we can provide some of that. We are working on some guides and checklists and that kind of thing to help with due diligence. Once it moves beyond a certain point, we highly recommend that you bring in the right professionals. There are some fantastic firms here in Calgary and across Canada, so that's one of the things that we are working very hard on, is building our network. Our network is available to our users and our friends and colleagues. Giselle and I make connections every day to people who are needing to meet people in the ecosystem. So we are trying to build that network so we can share it with who needs it.
Awesome. Alicia. Okay.
Thank you. Thanks, Alicia.
On that note, I want to say thank you so much, Liz, for being here and taking the
Thank
time
you
to
for
share your
having me.
story. Really appreciate it. And thank you, Giselle, as well, for being here. Before we go into, or yeah, big round of applause for Liz.
Thank you,
Thank you so
everybody.
much.
I hope you could hear me on the Zoom.
Before we go into community announcements, I want to invite Laura from Alberta Bike Swap up to share a special presentation as well.
I don't have COVID. I just have a really bad cold. I've checked and tested. Okay. How many of you know about Calgary Bike Swap? Everybody? Okay, I can go now. That's it? Oh, okay. Okay. Calgary Bike Swap is a nonprofit my husband and I founded 11 years ago. You bring a bike to us, we tech check it, record its serial number, you go away, and we e-transfer you or mail you a check. We designed the software for it. That's my forte. And we designed and patented the bike racks as well. So if you have a bike to bring, buy, sell, or donate, bring it to us. It's at Sunridge Mall on May 7th and May 8th. If you've got a community cleanup, bring the bikes to us. We have about 40 community partners that can take these bikes. We pay to repair these donated bikes, and they go to use. They'll be recycled or reused. Do you have any questions? No? Okay, go ahead. You bet. We actually work with Bike Index, and the police actually recovered and retrieved bikes as well as the RCMP from pawn shops and online sales based on a chain of ownership. They stand by our due diligence as well. We've been doing this for 11 years. CBC did a show on us in June, and they really think we're onto something. So Manjit Minhouse did a story about us, and we've been actually asked to take our bike swaps to Sweden, Oslo, Petaluma, you name it. We've been going to international conferences for a while talking about our bike swaps. So I mentor tech students as well. So we redid our website. There's going to be a live stream of bikes actually next time. So we've been doing this now for 11 years. We donate more than half the profit, which is actually about 5 times the profit. We just determined that. We donated almost $30,000 at our last events in 2019. We donated well over 1,000 bikes to the 40 groups that we work with. And we make a significant impact in Alberta. And we also fund the container costs for Bicycles for Humanity. We fund the container costs for bikes to go to Zanzibar. We're not in it for the money. We're really in it for the bikes and transportation security. Trust me. Okay? Any questions? That's it? Okay. Posters are here if you want.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Laura. All right, so we're just going to head into community announcements before we go into networking. Are there any announcements from the audience? Yes.
Yeah, so Dave Creek with Platform Calgary, one of the advisors. We know that lots of founders and startups and investors are heading out to United Prairies and Collision and Startup Fest, and we want to make sure that we sort of gather together and prepare together and make sure we make the most of that. So if you know of anyone heading to those conferences, please let us know. Drop me a note. I'd love to make the connections for them to others that are going and just make a bit of a delegation for each of us.
Thanks, David. What date is Startup Fest?
Startup Fest is in mid-July. Collision is end of June, third week of June.
Perfect.
20th to 23rd, I believe. And United Prairies is happening right away here in Vegas next week.
Awesome. Thank you.
You can email advisors@platformcalgary.com. That'd be great. Yeah, awesome.
There's one from the chat. So there's the next Civic Tech YYC Conservation Informed by Technology. There's a meetup. It'll be in the chat. I'm not sure what date it is, but I will post this in our Slack channel as well. I will also post that information in our Slack as well, David. You're welcome. Jade.
Yeah, our next Startup TNT event is going to be here on May 12th, 4 to 7 p.m., and then we'll go over to Jameson for the after party. But we already have 37 companies applying in Calgary, about 28 in Edmonton, and we're at about 30 in Saskatchewan. So we'll be streaming those ones live, and we'll have live parties there. But May 12th will be here.
May 12th, Startup TNT at Platform Innovation Center. Come out, that'll be a good time. And then Jameson's after party. I'll also post that in Slack as well, Jade. Thank you. All right, so maybe we'll go into networking for those that are on Zoom. And in person, we will network here as well. I just want to say another big thank you to Liz for being here today and sharing your story. Really appreciate it. And thank you to Laura as well, and the platform team, as always, for hosting us and helping with tech. Really appreciate you having us here. So for connecting today, go meet maybe 3 people that you've never met before. Thinking about that social contract of free help. What's something that you can give to someone else? And yeah, just have a good time. And I want to thank everyone online for joining us. Everyone that came down in person. It's really great to see your faces and to connect. So thank you so much, and let's have a good time.
Thank you.
Looks like a little crowd in there today. Can everyone hear me online? If anyone wants to unmute and share an announcement here to our little crew, feel free, and then I'll get the breakout rooms ready.
I've got a quick announcement, same as last week, and I've posted it into chat, and it's also in our online system. So it's 2 charities. One of them, you can win a bicycle, a $5,000 bicycle package from Ridley Cycle that was kindly donated by them, and it's a raffle. Tickets are $10, or you can buy a group of them for $100. And then I'm also doing a team race around Lake Windermere, part of Branch Out Foundation, who are also a big support charity here that's doing non-pharmaceutical neurological research. So we're looking for people that want to join me and race around the lake. It's either going to be 80, 100, or 160 kilometers, whichever you choose to do that day. Lots of sweating, lots of fun, but also a big party at night.
Awesome. Thanks, Peter. Okay, and then an announcement on behalf of Amber. If you want to help her with setup and whatnot, greeting people in the hybrid events like this, which will be the last Wednesday of every month, please connect with Amber so she doesn't have to run around like a chicken with her head cut off. And we have started to get a bit more interest in volunteering now that things are back in person. So for other volunteer opportunities which will arise, just get in touch with Amber, or preferably Amber, or myself. She's heading up the volunteer stuff up. So I'm gonna open some breakout rooms. This is where the magic really happens in the rainforest, whether in person or online. Please, in the spirit of free help, feel free to offer and or ask for whatever it is you're needing in your journey in the tech world, or the entrepreneurship world, or innovation world, however you want to label it. I'm going to open the rooms, have some fun. We'll swing back here in about 7 minutes to do it all over again.
Okay, cool.
They're open now.